Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestle Horror. Greetings, viewers and listeners. Meat Hook Jim here, along with Donnie Hoover. Donnie, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing out there?
And on this episode of Wrestle Horror, we've got a guest from the Halloween horror and haunt side of the show. We are talking, of course, about Max Bryant with the Ohio Haunters Association. Max, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Meat Hook Jim. Are we calling you that here?
I am still Meat Hook Jim.
Okay. I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me on.
It's our pleasure. Our pleasure. Max and I actually met because he won a prize off of the Big Scary Show.
Absolutely.
Was it a year or two ago now?
Yeah, a year or two from Screamline Studios. I remember it was a wedge hammer type thing. I love that thing.
But we came and we wanted to talk to Max about Halloween haunting and the Ohio Haunters Association, especially with the convention and everything. So let's. All right, we're going to throw out the standard question: why did you get into haunting?
Well, I pretty much, this is my go-to story. I got into haunting by right of birth. And what I mean by that is I was born on Halloween at about 10:30 at night on Halloween.
Nice.
I scared the crap out of my mom that night because there was a point where they were trying to get me out and my heart stopped. And so I was already playing, like messing with her and playing dead and, being weird and everything. So, from the moment I was born, and, growing up, most of my birthday parties were costume parties or spent trick-or-treating. So to me, Halloween was a big part of growing up, obviously just for the fact of when I celebrated my birthday. But why I got into haunting, it started around 2012, I think, when the neighborhood, we used to have trick-or-treaters only about, I remember years when only you got 6 or 8 kids. And we're, Springfield, Ohio, it's a city of about 70,000 people. So there's no reason that you wouldn't have trick-or-treaters. So the neighborhood got together and said, look, we want an event. We want to close off the streets so that, kids can cross the street, be safe. We're going to have events. We're going to have, some games, popcorn on the street. But we also want you to put on a backyard haunt. I was like, really? Okay. So, man, if you saw it, honestly, I put up 3 lights. People walked down my backyard and back. And so I had about 6 friends that were actors, and they got them when they walked through and got them when they got back. And that was my first step into it. So, and things just kind of escalated from there.
That's actually how I got started with haunting. Is Mike Newsom used to do a home haunt at his grandparents' house in their backyard. And he needed somebody to do a butcher scene for him because he didn't have enough people. So I was just like, okay, I'll try it to show me what to do. And that's basically how I started, sort of the same way.
I actually, now I'm right at this moment, I'm thinking about when my church used to do a haunted catacombs. There was this basement catacombs area, and I never really got to be a part of it much, but they took the little kids through it, and the older kids in the church got to put it on. And then it stopped. And then when I became a junior or senior, I tried to bring it back, but, there's obvious objections as to why some would be okay with it and why some others wouldn't. I even remember my youth director coming to me and saying, hey, look at this article. It says everybody has to have a fire code and yada, yada, yada. And I said, nobody cares about church putting on a haunted house. Just do it. It was great. I even had a friend who had a plug-in chainsaw, like an electric chainsaw, and that's what we used inside of there. I remember that, but it was I don't know how much haunting I'd say. It was more of just setting up strobe lights and an electric chainsaw. But that you start somewhere. You have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So how many years have you been home haunting?
So 2012, I did it. I did it for 3 years, and then I moved to Cincinnati for a job. And when I moved to Cincinnati, I didn't have a yard anymore. Right. So that's when I started acting for the Dent Schoolhouse in Cincinnati, and I'm now entering my 5th year into that. But after 2 years of doing the den schoolhouse, I missed my home haunt. Like, there's one thing about being a part of a haunt, and then there's something different about putting on your own thing. Even though the quality of whatever I put on will never match that of any pro haunt, it's still mine, and I still wanted to do it. So I picked it back up in like 2017. No, yeah, 2017. So I did it for 2017 and 2018. So I will be entering my 6th year of doing the home haunt. And the 2 years I didn't do it, people would come up to my parents and say, hey, where's the backyard haunt? Where's it at? And so it's a local thing. It's a one-night thing. It's just for trick-or-treating, but it's still special to me.
Sure. I get it. I've done a few of those in my day. And it doesn't matter how cheesy it looks, it's yours.
Right. It is mine. That's true. And people seem to enjoy it. And some people even want to come out, and I get messages where they're like, you need to do an extra night, like a special viewing night or an extreme night. And I'm like, that there's the thing about this where I don't want the city to really know about it. Like, it goes up and comes down in the same weekend before people come back to work.
Right. So you said you've been at the Den Schoolhouse for coming up on 5 years, is it?
Yeah. This will be my 5th year acting.
And I know the last year and this year you're playing a character called Pumpkin Smasher, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and I get to be lucky enough to still be Pumpkin Smasher this year.
Speaking as somebody who's worn a silicone mask before, how's it feel?
Oh, man. Facebook just reminded me of a memory I posted almost exactly a year ago where I said, it said, first night in a full silicone mask. Ew, 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 ew. And that described my experience last year. Like, I'm sorry, listeners and viewers, but the sweat collects in the chin of the thing and you have to drain it. And, every time it comes off, everything's just dripping off of you. And in the early part of the season, like, the whole costume's orange, but you see the sweat marks coming out the bottom of the silicone mask. And I hate it when I look at the selfies and pictures on Facebook and Instagram that customers have come and taken. It's like, ew, and it's hot. And I weigh 315 pounds, so, and that's not all muscle. That is not taking care of myself. So I do sweat a lot, and I'm trying to hydrate, but man, that mask is rough for a full night of doing this Q line acting and everything.
The first year I got mine, there was still the detention hall behind there and not the slaughter yard. Mm-hmm. And I wore that mask, and like every hour I would step behind scenes, just lift it up and watch like a gallon of sweat fall out. Put it back on and keep going. And I would probably go through 3 Powerades a night and not have to pee afterwards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I hydrate to the point where I'm like going every 15, 30 minutes before I start. And as soon as you start going, you're not going again.
Right.
And the character is a ton of fun. I would say the mask is not what gets me into character. I would say it's probably the big mallet hammer that I'm walking around with. Okay. Like, when I'm carrying that around, that's when I start getting into Pumpkin Smasher mode. And I couldn't. I don't know. Maybe Jim, like, being in Q line is just one of the it's a beast that I was not ready for my very first night of doing it. My first full night, I almost tapped out because, like, you're always on. Like, a lot of actors, you do your thing and then you retreat into your hiding space.
Yes.
Q line, you're always at it, and you're always being watched, and you're doing this, and this, and you're running around. You can't. Yeah, maybe you find a moment somewhere to get a drink of water, but even then you're still kind of being visible. So when you're talking about like the gallon of sweat, like getting off of there, you do have to drain at some point, but you have to do it creatively. Like, there have been points when a kid will come up to me and it's like, you're ugly. And I will say, well, you make me want to throw up. And then I'll bend over and then all the sweat will come out and I'll pretend that I'm throwing up just to pass it off.
That's a great idea. It is. The masks are so great, but they come at a price, and that price is a lot of sweating,
Hmm.
even when it's cold outside.
Yes. And it's almost worse when it's cold because, you know, the sweat still collects. And then
Yeah,
when that cold air hits you, you know, you can get sick pretty easily because you're still heating up under there. And then when you take your break, you're still taking the mask off. And
right.
then your body starts to cool down like that fast. And I think that hot and cool hit and the sweat collecting on the costume getting hit by the cold air can be, you know, can be risky to the health in some way. But I mean, CFX does amazing with those masks, and I think that's pretty much where all those full silicone masks come from at Dent is CFX, and they're greatly detailed, and we take care of them, we wash them, and they're amazing. And but you know, there are some people who simply cannot handle. I mean, we're talking about the full silicone mask, but even just like a half mask, I
Right.
have, you know, there are actors who can't even handle that. Like it triggers a claustrophobia type thing for some people. And for me, I wanted to be in Q Line. I wanted to act out there. I felt like I could handle it, and it does come at a price. You're right, but if once you condition yourself and you really get into character and you're really entertaining, I think it becomes one of the most rewarding things so far that I've had in my experience.
Absolutely. And you know, just to let you know, even when I was working in detention hall, I was given carte blanche to work the queue line as well,
Hmm.
especially when DH was a little slow,
Hmm.
but which happens sometimes. But anyway, I've been up there at the front of the queue line too, and working up and down the lines and ducking under the ropes and getting up next to these people. And you're right, it's a constant show. It's not like in a room where you can make your scare and then reset, and you get a 30-second breather before the next group comes in. You are
Hmm.
constantly in the public eye, so it is a completely different beast. But you know, Maul does 99% queue line work, so those people, all those actors, are ready for being on the stage for 5 hours a night.
Hmm.
You know, and it's something that you just got to prepare for mentally.
Yeah, prepare for it, and also realize that you set the tone for a lot of what they're going to interact. You know, you got to get them excited. You know, if you catch what my friend Alex Dickey will say, the daydreamers, if you see somebody in line that's just kind of not paying attention, well, then they get a mallet in the face and, you know,
Right.
wake them up some. And I do enjoy it. I do look forward to it. It is physically taxing. The people that I've stayed with in Cincinnati have noticed that sometimes between Friday and Saturday, I'm pretty much in bed the whole day, like between the shows, because I'm trying to recharge because it does take a lot out of you. And um, I, I'm still trying to figure out maybe some tips to make wearing the mask more bearable. I've heard some people talk about wearing this Under Armour type hood thing.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that. Some people have talked about wicking, like somehow creating some kind of wick so that it comes out the mask. I haven't tried any of that yet, but I've made it through one season. I know I can make it through another, and you know, hopefully continue doing it because it is a lot of fun.
Oh, it absolutely is. And that Under Armour hood, I believe, is wicking as well.
So yeah, I learn something new every day.
I believe. I believe.
No,
Uh,
I guess the concept's the same. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
a place for the sweat to go.
right. Other than your face
Right.
or your neck or your chin down in here.
Yeah.
So 5 years at the Dent Schoolhouse, second year as Pump and Smasher. Uh, what are your future plans? I mean, you gonna hang out at Dent as long as you can? Are you gonna what's in the future for Maximus?
Well, I recently just moved back to Springfield, Ohio. And the reason was because I believe in being a part of a community, and I was living out in a different area, and it wasn't exactly Cincinnati; it was out east of it. I never felt ingrained in that community, so I came back to Springfield to be close to the family. I am close to my church family, but with that comes a much longer drive to Dent. And I love Dent. I mean, my goodness, it's one of my favorite things every year to start the new year, meet the new people, try to get them feel welcome. And, you know, a big shout out to our newbies this year. I think they've done fantastic so far. We've only had one weekend, but they're doing great so far. Uh, so, there is a longer drive to Dent, and I'm not entirely sure what the future will look like as far as the acting piece goes. I know that there are some haunts in this area, but you know, as you might remember, or you probably still know, each of you, you finish a season, you're tired, you're exhausted, and then by the time January comes around or February, you miss it. You miss it so much, and you're just kind of like, guys, I miss you. You're messaging everybody, and you're kind of trying to get-togethers going, and um, so I've created a community at Dent. There, so if anything else, I would continue there. One other option we've kind of talked about with the Ohio Haunters Association is we're trying to figure out ways, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're trying to figure out ways in which we can make the association more valuable to the Ohio haunt community.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten together and we've started 2019. We started Ohio Halloween and Haunters Convention, but we're trying to think of how can the association be useful in season. We have some memberships going that come with some discounts to some different attractions throughout Ohio, but I was sort of thinking about maybe what if Ohio Haunters Association started, getting a little bit more into the promoting type thing? Like, you've probably seen some stuff like Louisville Halloween. They've at times gone to different haunts, made little promo videos, little interviews. I was kind of thinking of maybe something like that, but for the purpose of, which is one of our goals of Ohio Haunt Association, is to promote Ohio haunts.
Right.
This wouldn't be a thing about getting free tickets or anything like that. This is promoting, like, hey, we have an amazing haunt community in Ohio. There's a lot of amazing haunts, and some of them you don't even know. So
Right.
we want to tell you about it, and if there's a way we can maybe, I'm talking before we even like know exactly what we would do, but there's ideas kind of floating around, because one of my favorite things to do is to visit other haunts. I love it. I
Right.
love it. I love to visit other haunts, and I love to see what's out there and be able to, when somebody posts on the Ohio Haunters Association page and they're like, hey, what are some great haunts in the X area? And I love to be able to say, yeah, this place is great, this place is great, this place is great. I mean, I wouldn't say any place is not great, but but the thing is, I want people to go see haunts, and I want them to see multiple haunts, and I want them to
Right.
support the community in that way.
So, well, actually, that was a good segue, because I was going to bring up the Ohio's Haunters Association next. And you've filled us in on a lot, but why don't you tell us about the convention? I mean, I heard that next year is going to be bigger.
Oh yeah. So we had the first convention in 2019 in May at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield. The purpose of this convention was there was a pretty big Halloween convention in Columbus, MHC, Midwest Haunters Convention, and once it decided to leave to Chicago, which we will agree is probably a great move for the show, we said we still want to party in Ohio. And we thought, you know what, we're gonna put on a convention. And Jason Wilson's been a big leader in all that. He's been the catalyst of the Ohio Haunters Association. He's been the catalyst of the convention. The convention exists for us to celebrate haunting in Ohio, and not exclusive to Ohio, but say, hey, here's some haunts you can visit. Here's some great Halloween vendors, many of them from Ohio, and get together, network, learn, education, all that kind of stuff. So for 2020, we're going to be able. So the prison has two wings of cell blocks, and we were in one of those wings. So the vendors were all in front of these cells, these prison cells, these old historical prison cells, and they were in front of those, and it wrapped around the whole cell block. This year, we're going to still have that block and half of the other one. So that's going to add, potentially another 20 plus vendors. We're also going to probably put some vendors up in the Central Guard area. So, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that we had about 45-ish vendors last year, maybe a little more than that. So this year, I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say we could potentially have 75 vendors this year, which is something very possible, because I remember last year, by the time Christmas hit, we had already sold out of vendor space.
Right.
Before several months before the convention even happened. So the show is growing. There was a fantastic response last year, and we have so much thanks to give to volunteers like Donnie. Donnie and a lot of his friends were just fantastic in making this happen. And it was amazing for the Ohio community to kind of come together, put this convention on, celebrate haunting in Ohio, and we hope to keep it going. The Ohio State Reformatory is a fantastic site. It's worth going just by itself to see the big historic building. And I mean, people were posting photos of pictures they were taking, and you could see ghosts hiding in them, and people are like, the place is haunted. It's no doubt haunting. I have a friend who says that she's a medium and can sense spirits and all this kind of stuff. She refuses to go there. She refuses to go to that place. She loves Halloween and everything, but she's like, absolutely not. I cannot go to that place. Those spirits will come after me. And they made a showing at the last convention, but it was a lot of fun. And Donnie could even speak to. I hope you had a good time, Donnie.
Oh,
But
I had an absolute blast. I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. And I also, like, when because I did help with the load in and load out. So, but once all the vendors and everybody was all set up, my job was pretty much done, except for a couple odd and end things I volunteered to help out with. So I would slip down these little corridors and pathways, and I'd go, snooping around and exploring and stuff. And that place is friggin' amazing. I mean, I'd been there before, but I never had as much access to it as I did there.
Right.
Yeah, it was a very good time. I had a blast the whole weekend.
And the vendors, not to brag, but I do believe the vendors very much enjoyed themselves. There's many, many, many of them who want to come back, but the place is historic and it's big and it's creepy. And you got to imagine Zombie Skins booth, right there with everything they got with this old, building with so much character right behind it. It just fits amazingly with any vendor that has weapons, props that look like limbs, creepy dolls, asylum type costumes, everything. It just sets the scene so well for a Halloween convention. And honestly, I'm just shocked nobody's done it
right before that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it looked amazing. Especially when all the vendors were set up and all the stuff was out. It was man, this place is freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I am sorry I missed it this year.
I missed you, man. Jim, it would have been a big honor for me to have seen you there and see you be able to talk about Big Scary Show and Mall, especially there, and I wish you well with everything that's been going on, but you've been a tremendous help and a guide and an inspiration to me in a lot of ways. And I think my conversations with you, seeing how a haunt enthusiast can go from an actor to creating something in the haunt world. You did it way before me, and but you are an inspiration.
I'm touched. Thank you. I'm glad I could help. That's all I ever want to do in this business is help people and guide them in the right direction, because if everybody works together, we can achieve amazing things.
Absolutely. I like people in the haunt community working together, and especially up in the Mansfield area, there's 3 haunts: Blood Prison, Trail of Nightmares, and Mohican Haunted Schoolhouse that do cross promoting. Looking at each other as potential allies and cross promoters, as opposed to competitors.
Right.
I don't even remember. There was a documentary about a haunt in Michigan, and I remember at one point of the documentary, there was a car parked across the street, and they believed it was another haunt that was spying on them. And I'm like, so what? I mean, maybe for the purposes of a documentary, you need drama or something, but I'm like, if I see another haunt at my haunt, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try to even put on an even better show, just
Right.
for the simple fact that you guys know what haunting's about, and it's a point of pride almost that
Mhm.
that people visit you, and I love being a gracious host, and when I go visit other haunts, I want to be a courteous guest.
Right. It's a shame that I I wish that more haunts would do what they do, but I can understand
Yeah.
it if you've got haunt A and haunt B on the same street. Yeah, you're going to be competitors.
Right.
But these multiple haunts, these I know there's Backwoods Oddities and a couple other haunts out in that area. I know we're doing cross promoting last year, and I'm pretty sure they're going to do it again this year. It's a win-win for everybody. That's the
Absolutely.
simplest way to put it.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's what I was just, when you just said that, and with me, with my, I'm putting my wrestling promoter hat on. But if I'm haunt A and I have haunt B like 2 doors down or right next door to me, I'm not going to be a competitor to them, and I'm not going to do anything negative. I'm going to be like, hey, let's put a bridge right here. So as soon as they leave our haunt, they cross over to yours. As soon as they leave yours, they cross over to mine. Let's work this together. And I know a lot of people don't think that way, but that's just how I think. I think I see it as a good thing. The multiple haunts.
Mm, there's a podcast I listen to called Haunt Weekly, and the guy Jonathan, he makes the point all the time. You're not competing against each other. You're competing against like Friday Night Football,
right,
or the movies, or even the movie It Too, or you know, are people going to spend their money going to a movie, or are they going to come to a haunted house? And yeah, and as a kid, I even remember, talking about haunts that are right across the street from each other. There's two in here on the south end of Springfield, and as a kid, I remember I went to one and I jumped the street and I went to the other one.
Yep.
I mean, when you go through one and you make it out alive. I mean, everybody does, but but when you make it out, there's a rush, and you're kind of like, I want to do it again, or I want to, go maybe to another haunt, and test that out. I think that when you have that rush, and you get those customers, why not uh, cross promote in that way, or encourage it, because I the Ohio Valley Haunts guys have a page on their website about the rest in peace haunts, and you go through that list and you see haunts that don't exist anymore. Truthfully, I'm saddened by it. Yeah,
yes,
maybe, yeah, Ohio has a ton of haunts, it's true, but I mean, it could still have a lot more, and I have to question the value of having so many haunts, but to me, it's like, you know what, because I know the effort that goes in, but like uh, Bud and Chuck and Josh at Dent have allowed me in the last 2 years to be on the build crew. And man, even my contribution didn't put up enough to create what is there at Dent. So I
right,
know that it's a lot of work. And I know that when people do it, it's out of a passion. And so I want to see those passions, succeed and be here. And because this, it's art, it's acting, it's Halloween, it's fun, it's festive, it's frightening, it's beautiful in a creepy way.
that sums it up pretty well. It's a good thing we got that recorded.
Yeah.
Got to make a T-shirt out of that.
Yeah,
But I mean, you could also liken haunts like how you were referring about when you come out of one and you're just, the adrenaline's still there and you want to go to another one. It's kind of just like going to an amusement park if you're a roller coaster enthusiast. You get off that first roller coaster, you're not going to say, all right, I'm ready to go home. You're looking for that next roller coaster to go on the second one, and you want to
Hmm.
try to get as many roller coaster rides as you can in that one day. And it's kind of the same way I look at haunting. You get out of that first haunted house, you're like, all right, where's the next one at? Let's go.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious about, like, in the haunt world, and maybe Jim has more expertise on this, but the concept of going through a haunt, but being able to go through another one at the same location, kind of like what Land of Illusion has going on, and I think what Brimstone is trying to do, and the new one down in Williamsburg, Terror Town. I mean, it's like there's so many different things you can do along with their haunt. So I think this more the I don't know if that's a building trend? I don't know, but I mean, it's kind of cool.
Like a haunt park type of thing.
It's
Park.
Well, it's not a new concept. There are many scream parks throughout the country. Mall works at one every October called Indie Scream Park in Anderson, Indiana. I'll give them a free plug. But they've got other things to do. I mean, there's a zombie paintball. There's several carnival games. They've got all kinds of food vendors, a beer vendor. A lot's going on, and it's a centralized midway, which is similar to the way. I mean, Land of Illusions is a bit larger, but it's the same basic concept. Land of Illusion, they've got their bar, they've got all the stuff you can do in the center area, the big bonfire, things like that. And then they've got the haunts. So it's not a new concept, but it's a concept that seems to work, especially when you've got the population to support it. As long as you're given a good quality product, which they both are. I mean, obviously they're both going strong. And these are just the two I know about. There's
many more.
Yeah, there's plenty of scream parks, and they're all going to have a lot more to do than just the haunts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was kind of wondering it because Ohio Haunters Association, we have monthly meetings, and typically they're at a haunt somewhere. And we'll meet and we'll have some kind of education, or we'll talk about things coming up. We'll talk about the convention, give updates, let people kind of have a roundtable discussion. But then we'll oftentimes get to see the haunt. So one month, I think it was July, we went to Brimstone. And Brimstone's at the Ren Fest, and so they're going to have their hayride, and now they have a new one, and it looks awesome. So multiple haunts, and then I went to Terrortown, which is also creating an experience where you can do many different things. So it was kind of like I hit 2 in a row, and when you got Middletown, Wilmingtonish area, Williamsburg area, all kind of surrounding Cincinnati that are in that way. It's like, I was questioning, is that a trend or is it a growing thing? I don't know, but so I like it. I think it's great. Those haunt reviewers that try to hit like 4 or 5 haunts in one night probably can't do it with those type of haunts where you have to go through multiple. But it's it's just great that there's so much variety out there, especially in like the Cincinnati area. You can go through the Den Schoolhouse, which in my opinion is wonderful. And then you can go to USS Nightmare. I mean, it's a haunted house on a boat.
Right.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. and Mount Healthy Haunted Hall is a charity haunt. And there's US 50 Fright Field on the west end. And there's a special Boy Scout type event in the Milford area called Spookery. Sean Regal runs that, and there's just so much variety that you can get into, and I think that's the beautiful thing about haunting is the deeper you dig, the more you find. I mean, you can just look at your own haunt or the haunt in your area, the haunt in the state, the haunts throughout the country, the conventions, the acting, the makeup, the background music, the building. There's just so much to get into, and you can spend years and years and still be learning for hopefully a while. It's I don't know. Like when you ask me what the future brings for me, I don't know. Maybe the best way to put it is I just want to keep learning, and I don't know where that's going to happen or what it'll bring. But I mean, in just 5 years of getting involved, since 2012, home haunt, acting at a pro haunt, getting involved with a association, helping put on a convention, who knows what's next? My goodness, I'm thankful for it because I think it's one of those things that you can follow your passion and really make something of it.
There's no substitute for passion. That's the simplest way to put that. Donnie, any last comments or questions for Max?
No, I just, like I said, you know how I am when it's the haunt side of the Wrestle Horror podcast. I usually sit there with my ears open and soak it all in, and I'm still trying to learn as much as I can off everybody I can. So yeah, I'm just thankful that he came on, and we had the Brimstone Ohio Hunters Association meeting that he had talked about. I was actually at that meeting. I didn't get to go to the other one, the Terrortown, and but Brimstone I was at, and then we had talked about him coming on, and so yeah, we finally got around to getting him on here. I know he was doing the big move back from Cincinnati back to Springfield, so we kind of put it on hold until he got settled back in. But yeah, I'm just happy to have him. And and one thing, I know you do the cue acting, and that's what you like to do. And I know it's kind of beginner, and like the professional hunters, it's like the beginner thought, but like drop panels and like bang doors and stuff like that, like the jump scares. I mean, that's my favorite kind of stuff. And even though I know that that's how everybody starts out, I mean, I'm content staying at those kind of things. I mean, I would do a drop panel every night. What are your thoughts with like drop panels, jump scares versus cue line acting? And is there a preference, or do you just like it all? Or
I I like the drop panels. I mean, my hand, the couple nights I've done, my hand hurts like crazy. So I mean, but the thing is, I didn't know I was going to do them before the night I did them. Otherwise, I would have brought maybe a glove or something to help with
yeah,
the thing and get it on the latch. No, before I started at Dent, there's this video online. It was filmed in 2010, which they did. I think it was Hunt World or I don't know who it was, but they did a walkthrough of it, and then they interviewed the owners, and I studied it. And I went to the interview, and they asked me, what scene I would want. And I had said a drop window, because you can just tell that gets one of the best reactions. A drop window is part of a scene. You don't know it's a drop window, and then all of a sudden there's a person in the wall. It was kind of a foolish thing, because at that point the entire haunt had changed. That video still had detention hall in it, and detention hall doesn't exist anymore. And the drop windows I was thinking of didn't exist anymore. It still has drop windows, but I like those pops, and there's a timing to it, there's a volume to it, an intensity to it, and if you can even still invade their personal space a bit from a drop window, you can really get an amazing reaction out of it. But I think the point of any position that you're in is, whatever you're in, even if it's a scene where you're out in the open and you can't really run around anywhere. Like, I was a chef for a year. There was nowhere to retreat. I was there. I had to do my dialogue thing. I had to create a pop within it. I had to do a creep scare factor into it, all in while a group's passing. But there's nothing like a good old boom, yeah, type thing.
yep. Yeah, when we was doing the Trail to Terminator and had that up and going, I was doing the butcher scene, so I didn't really get the opportunity to do jump scares and drop panels, that kind of thing. But we actually had one at the very end of my butcher scene, and as they were exiting our scene, we had a drop panel there that would come down, and I'd see it happen, every night, time after time. As soon as I was done with them and pushed them, the drop panel would go down, and I was like, man, I want to do that. So we actually had Andy, the guy that helped us build, he made it to where we could drop it both ways, because when it dropped, they came back around, and after they turned the corner, they pretty much passed it again. So he made a contraption, and I had him put a string through. So once they dropped it and set it back up, I'd go and stand on the other side and get them coming back around, just because I wanted to do a drop panel.
Yeah. And if you're a haunt owner out there, give your actors a peephole, please. I mean, you, as an actor, you do need to pick up on cues from a previous scene, like, oh, the car horn went off, so yeah, they're about to be here. But give them a peephole or something. And the amazing thing about the drop windows is, if you get a Congo line, you can drop it, put it back up. You wait like 2-3 people, drop it again, you're still going to get an amazing reaction. But so, I mean, for pop window actors, keep doing it. Like, conga lines don't just pop once and kind of stop. Keep going. Like, everybody paid their price for their ticket. Give them all a show.
Yep.
So yeah, that. But I love them though, and I don't want to ignore the wrestling side of this. So I'm going to throw in one thing. My favorite wrestler from way back when.
Okay.
Shaq Dorsey.
Glacier.
Glacier.
Hold on, now let me explain it. And you can even look this up. Glacier, they had him because Mortal Kombat and martial art type things and Power Rangers were getting big, and so Glacier was a ride off of that, and I was totally into it. I'm like, he's the wrestling Sub-Zero. I love it. And my favorite tag team was Public Enemy.
Public Enemy. Okay.
They Those guys, I mean, they were the WCW Dudley brothers. I mean, they always came out with a table
Yeah.
doing their thing. So I love them. So I had to throw that in because I know we were talking about wrestling beforehand, but I wanted to throw that in.
Yep, there you go.
Well, Donnie was convinced it was Shank Dorsey, but
Oh,
but no, that's great. Do you want to plug OHA or anything you're doing on the show? Go ahead.
absolutely. So Ohio Haunters Association, you can find them on Facebook. You just look up Ohio Haunters Association. We also have a website, ohiohaunters.com. The convention, Ohio Halloween and Haunters Convention, you can find that on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook page, and as we get closer, we'll create an event page for 2020. Details and everything will be on there. Facebook is the big thing for Ohio Haunters Association and the Ohio Halloween and Haunters Convention. It will be at Mansfield again. Come see me as Pumpkin Smasher at the Dent Schoolhouse, www.frightsite.com. Also check out the Facebook page. And if you're in Springfield, Ohio on October 31st, now Springfield, Ohio has not done this in a long time. They've never had trick-or-treating pretty much on Halloween. They've always had it on the Saturday before. This year, and it's funny because this controversy kind of came up about petitions to move Halloween to a Saturday. Springfield does the exact opposite this year. They moved it to Halloween, actually. So Thursday, October 31st, Springfield, Ohio, South Fountain Avenue. Fright on Fountain is my backyard haunt. There's also a Facebook page for it. So I think those are all my plugs.
Cool. Well, this has been a great conversation, and it really, you carried a lot of it, and we talked about what we wanted to talk about, and if I hadn't brought it up, you did. So it's a win-win across the board, and Donnie hopefully learned a few things while we were talking.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But Max, thanks so much for coming on to Wrestle Horror and talking with us about, haunting and your character and the OHA and everything Halloween. I'm Meat Hook Jim, along with Donnie Hoover, our special guest, Max Bryant. We'll catch you on the next episode. We're out.
See ya.
Bye.
Make sure you follow us on all of our social media outlets. Facebook.com/WrestleHorror, Instagram @WrestleHorror, Twitter @WrestleHorror, on our YouTube channel, the Wrestle Horror Channel. Also, you can find us at www.wrestlehorror.com.